Hey guys, I know this video is a little bit late today. However, I wanted to go into detail and a create a simple chart for you guys to look at and understand what I'm talking about. When I'm referencing internal healing, I am talking about I'm not talking about you thinking about every single time someone said no to you or anything like that. I'm asking what I'm a good starting point is to think about where am I having contradictions now? Where am I not at ease in my mind right now? Start at where you are presently and work your way back. Okay? If you have any other questions in regards to what I'm talking about, please comment below, like and subscribe. And thank you so much, you guys, for all your support. Okay.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about intellectualization and how this impacts us and how it can really help us find balance of who we are in our adult life. So as we grow up, who we ought to be would be the pressures of our family and society, and who we really are inside. We really disconnect from that part of ourselves. So bear with me here. Just don't worry about this part. Okay, so the two different types of scenarios that we're going to grow up in is either going to be a positive environment with positive experiences, or we're going to grow up in poverty, maternal depression, abuse, and neglect. So depending on the two scenarios, this will influence our development. And the influential parts of our development would be our peers, our parents, and our environments. Our environments will form our experiences, and we form our temperament in those experiences, ultimately forming our moral compass, our sense of self, and emotional regulation. So as I'm going through this, I want you to ask yourself, how is it impossible to understand another if you don't understand yourself? So just keep this question in the back of your mind. So a moral compass, the biggest part that we disconnect from would be our moral compass as we grow up. And this is throughout all of our stages of development, from when we are little babies up until we are on our own, living out in the world by ourselves. So our experiences and our temperament, the part that is us, that is already formed through this, would be our attachment style. What comes into contradiction would be our personal versus family values. And that's where your moral compass comes into play. So a family value that may be present with tradition and the norm in your family, what is socially accepted, may not feel right in your heart. And this is where we usually start the abandonment of self. So your experiences and your temperament will be formed from what's socially accepted. And as you grow up from a little baby up until you're an adult and you're on your own, you got to ask yourself, when you're doing the introspection, if you feel any kind of contradiction, there's something within you, there's no balance that has been found. So ask yourself, what did I have to do as a child to feel understood? And most of us won't even remember this. And asking your parents isn't always necessarily the best way to go about it. So ask yourself, if you have a child, what does my child have to do to feel understood? And I don't want you to assume, I don't want you to tell them how they feel. Understood, which would mean that if they can't put how they're feeling in words, you need to ask certain questions to allow them to elaborate on how they feel themselves. Not doing it for them. And in my previous, I'll go back to it. In my previous slide, I have an emotional wheel that will be linked in my group on Facebook that will be in the bio. So, have you ever heard the quote, to love others, you must first love yourself? So what does it mean to understand yourself? Having found balance in spite of lived experiences that have created internal complexes in one's judgment, beliefs, interests, and belonging. Embracing the shadow we unconsciously create throughout our lives. The shadow is parts of ourselves we chose to throw away, things that we determine as not important. Throughout without not further introspection. Blah, blah, blah. That was a tongue twister there. The parts of ourselves we choose to throw away, things we determined as non important without further introspections. Examples of this would be needs, wants, desires, opinions, anything you had growing up that, believe it or not, may still be lingering in the back of your head because you haven't found balance in what that really means to you or how it resonated. Questions that I started with would be, how would it look to love you? Like, love yourself. How, or do you know your love language? What communication style do you have? Do you know your personality type? How about your attachment style? Do you know what your current values are? And how have you addressed the traumas of your upbringing? A trauma could be anything that is as small as being told no to getting an ice cream cone, to being beaten repeatedly as a kid. The severity of trauma is different for every individual depending on their upbringing and how much they're able to comprehend and cope with what's going on. So their capacity to acknowledge and comprehend what is happening and without having a psyche fracture. So everybody has trauma from growing up in one shape or another. We all do. And looking at it this way, it can be a little depressing, yes, but if you have any kind of contradiction within yourself that you still battle and you don't feel at peace all or the majority of the time, I'm talking like 99.9% of the time, then there's parts of yourself that you don't understand. However, there's an upside. You can always understand yourself more. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You are not stuck here. You are the decider of how, like, you are in control of how long you decide to stay there.